Good evening, night owls, and welcome to another chilling episode of Tales from the Oak. Whether you're drifting off to sleep, studying by the dim glow of a desk lamp, or navigating the quiet moonlit roads, I invite you to settle in and let your imagination wander.
I had always been fascinated by the dark web. Its labyrinthine network of hidden sites, accessible only through the Tor browser, felt like an underground kingdom where anything was possible. During my college years, it was a playground of forbidden knowledge and illicit goods, a place where I felt a rush of excitement mixed with the constant undercurrent of danger. The dark web was where I learned to navigate the shadowy corners of the internet, picking up skills that ranged from basic cryptography to the art of remaining anonymous. It was thrilling, a place where the rules of the surface web didn't apply, and I could explore the boundaries of my curiosity without restraint. Back then, I wasn't just a passive observer. I was actively involved in forums where people traded everything from hacked software to exotic drugs. It wasn't just about the transactions. It was the sense of community, the shared secrets, and the thrill of outsmarting the authorities. I had a pseudonym, Cypher Ghost, and under this alias, I felt invincible. My fellow dark web travelers and I exchanged tips on evading detection, shared stories about close calls, and even engaged in philosophical debates about the ethics of our activities. However, after graduating and settling into a mundane office job, the allure of that hidden world faded, overshadowed by the responsibilities of adulthood. The real world demanded my attention, rent to pay, a career to build, relationships to maintain. The adrenaline-fueled nights spent on the dark web were replaced by a 9-to-5 routine, and Cypher Ghost became a relic of my past, a reminder of a wilder, more carefree time. But a year after earning my degree, the monotony of everyday life became suffocating. The thrill of the unknown called to me once more, and I found myself diving back into the depths of the dark web. It started innocently enough, visiting old haunts, catching up on the latest chatter in forums I once frequented. The screen's dim glow felt like a portal to my past, and I was eager to reconnect with the thrill that had once made me feel so alive. Reactivating my old accounts, I was struck by how little had changed. The same aliases, the same cryptic conversations, the same aura of secrecy and danger. I navigated through familiar forums, greeted by usernames that had once been as familiar as my own. Shadowbroker, Nightcrawler, Spectre29, the list went on. It was like stepping into a time capsule, and I felt a rush of nostalgia mixed with an unsettling sense of foreboding. In one such forum, a thread caught my eye. A series of cryptic posts discussing a string of unsolved crimes in my city over the past year. The details were chillingly specific: abductions, disappearances, and even murders. Each post was a puzzle piece, a fragment of a larger, more sinister picture. The more I read, the more I realized these weren't just random crimes. They were interconnected, each one seemingly a piece of a larger puzzle. The forum buzzed with speculation. Some users claimed to have insider knowledge, while others dismissed the posts as elaborate hoaxes. But there was one user, Spectre29, whose comments stood out. His insights were disturbingly accurate, providing details that hadn't been made public. My curiosity piqued. I scoured my old chat logs, trying to remember if I had ever interacted with this enigmatic figure. As I dug deeper, a sense of déjà vu washed over me. Buried in my archives, I found an old conversation from years ago. Spectre29 had been a regular participant in a forum dedicated to drug exchanges. Back then, we had shared tips on anonymity, discussed our favorite suppliers, and even exchanged stories about close calls with law enforcement. The casual camaraderie we once shared now seemed ominous in light of his recent posts. Rereading our old chats, I noticed subtle hints and cryptic references that I had overlooked before. Spectre29 often spoke of the perfect crime, a fantasy he claimed was purely hypothetical. But now, with the benefit of hindsight, his words took on a more sinister tone. My heart raced as I realized the chilling possibility. What if these crimes were his doing? Determined to uncover the truth, I meticulously combed through news reports, cross-referencing them with Spectre 29 OS posts. The more I investigated, the more connections I found. Each crime scene location, each victim's profile, matched the descriptions Spectre 29 had provided. My stomach churned as the pieces began to fall into place. I knew I had to confront him, but I needed more proof. Using my tech skills, I hacked into the forum's server logs, tracing Spectre 29A's IP address. It led me to a nondescript house in a quiet suburb, not far from where I lived. The realization that a killer had been lurking so close to home was both terrifying and galvanizing. Armed with my findings, I contacted the police, sharing everything I had uncovered. Initially skeptical, they eventually agreed to investigate. Days turned into weeks as I anxiously awaited news, the tension gnawing at my sanity. Finally, the breakthrough came. The police raided the house, but to my horror, found it empty. In his basement, they found a trove of evidence, photos, diaries, and detailed plans of his crimes. He had meticulously documented everything, a twisted homage to our old discussions. The media frenzy that followed was overwhelming. Our town was a quiet suburb, and something like this was unprecedented. News vans lined the streets, reporters clamoring for any scrap of information. My phone rang incessantly, with journalists eager for a statement. Friends, family, even old acquaintances reached out, their curiosity tinged with concern. As the days turned into weeks, the frenzy slowly subsided. Life in our town began to return to its normal rhythm. But for me, normalcy seemed like a distant memory. The knowledge that the person behind Spectre 29 was still out there haunted me. Every creak of the floorboards, every shadow cast by the setting sun set my nerves on edge. Desperate for answers, I immersed myself in the evidence the police had recovered. Each photograph, each diary entry was a piece of a nightmarish puzzle. The man I had once chatted with so casually had transformed into a ghostly figure lurking in the peripheries of my consciousness. The realization that our conversations had been a catalyst for his crimes weighed heavily on my mind. I took a leave of absence from work, unable to focus on anything but the growing obsession with uncovering his whereabouts. I pored over every detail, trying to find a clue the police might have missed. His notes were meticulous, almost methodical in their precision. He had planned each crime with an eerie level of detail, his mind a twisted maze of malevolence. Late one night, as I sifted through yet another diary, I noticed a pattern. His entries often referenced places we had discussed in our chats, locations only someone familiar with our town would recognize. One name stood out: an abandoned factory on the outskirts of town, a place we had once joked about as the perfect hideout. With a mix of dread and determination, I decided to investigate. Armed with a flashlight and my old college baseball bat for protection, I drove to the factory. The building loomed in the darkness, its broken windows and rusted doors a testament to years of neglect. My heart pounded as I approached, the weight of my mission pressing heavily on my shoulders. Inside, the factory was a maze of shadows and silence. I navigated the debris-strewn corridors, my flashlight cutting through the darkness. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of the wind made me jump, but I pressed on, driven by a need for closure. In a back room, hidden beneath a pile of old crates, I found a makeshift living space. A sleeping bag, empty food containers, and a laptop sat amidst the clutter. My hands trembled as I opened the laptop, its screen illuminating the room with an eerie glow. It required a password, but my old skills came rushing back. Within minutes, I was in. The screen was filled with files, photos, documents, and chat logs. As I scrolled through them, I found recent entries, He had been here, watching, waiting. My blood ran cold as I realized he had been monitoring the police investigation, always one step ahead. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps echoed through the factory. Panic surged through me as I quickly shut down the laptop and hid behind a crate. The footsteps grew louder, closer. I held my breath, the darkness closing in around me. A figure appeared in the doorway, silhouetted by the faint light from outside. He moved with a quiet confidence, his eyes scanning the room. It was him, the man behind Spectre 29. He had returned to his lair, unaware that I was hiding mere feet away. Adrenaline coursed through my veins as I watched him. He moved to the laptop, cursing under his breath when he found it shut down. He knew someone had been there. My mind raced, trying to formulate a plan. I couldn't let him escape again. Summoning every ounce of courage, I stepped out from my hiding place, brandishing the baseball bat. "It's over," I said, my voice steady despite the fear coursing through me. He turned, surprise flickering across his face before it was replaced with a sinister smile. "Cypher Ghost," he said, recognizing me instantly. "I wondered when you'd find me." We stood there, two ghosts from the dark web, our pasts colliding in the dim light of the abandoned factory. The air was thick with tension, the weight of our shared history pressing down on us. In that moment, I knew there was no turning back. This was the final chapter, and it was up to me to end it. With a sudden burst of energy, I lunged at him, swinging the bat with all my strength. He dodged, grabbing a rusted pipe from the floor. We circled each other, weapons raised, the silence of the factory shattered by the clash of metal against wood. The fight was brutal, a desperate struggle for survival, but in the end, my determination won out. With a final, bone-jarring swing, I knocked him to the ground. He lay there, unconscious, as I grabbed his laptop and ran. The police arrived minutes later, alerted by a call I had managed to make during the fight. They took the laptop and combed through the factory, but by then he was gone. The empty shell of the factory echoed with my failure. He had slipped through our fingers once more, a spectre vanishing into the night. The investigation dragged on for months, but no trace of him was ever found. The laptop yielded more evidence of his crimes, but no clues to his current whereabouts. It was as if he had vanished off the face of the earth. Life tried to return to normal, but I was never the same. Paranoia crept into every corner of my existence. I moved to a new apartment, changed my routines, but the fear lingered. I knew he was out there, watching, waiting for the right moment. The first package arrived a few months later. It was unmarked, with no return address. Inside, I found a photograph of myself taken from outside my new apartment. My blood ran cold. He had found me. The police could do little with the limited evidence, and the investigation stalled. The packages kept coming, sometimes weeks apart, sometimes months. Each one contained something personal, something only someone watching me closely would know. A ticket stub from a movie I'd seen, a piece of clothing I thought I'd lost. It was a game to him, a twisted cat-and-mouse chase. For 4 years, the packages arrived intermittently, each one a grim reminder that he was always close by. I changed addresses, even moved to another city, but nothing deterred him. Every time I thought I was safe, a new package would arrive, resetting my anxiety. And then, one day, they stopped. Months passed without a single package. The silence was deafening, but I dared to hope that he had moved on, found a new obsession. It's been a year now since the last package arrived. The nightmares have lessened, the constant fear abating. I've started to rebuild my life piece by piece, but every now and then I catch myself looking over my shoulder, half expecting to see a shadow lurking in the distance. The dark web had taken its toll on me, and while I hoped it was over, a part of me knew that the shadows never truly disappear. They just wait, biding their time until the moment is right to emerge once more.
Thank you. for listening to Tales from the Oak. We hope you enjoyed this video, whether it kept you up or put you to sleep. Let us know which story you found most mysterious down below, or drop a suggestion on types of stories you'd like in the future. Until next time, God bless.